By the time we are done, Paul Ryan will wish he was Paul Ryan.
A common question I get asked about the Jimquisition is why? And I'm not just referring to having sex with pogs or bringing on cornflakes homunculi or anything like that. No. The more specific question is, why are you talking about this? And that comes up a lot about a number of different topics. Why are you giving this attention? Why are you shining a spotlight on something that some of us don't care about? With regards to today's episode, I'm going to invoke something that I don't invoke often, but I feel deserves to be invoked today. It's a little rule that's called, this show's called the Jimquisition. Now Jim's going to talk about something because Jim wants to. To be perfectly honest, I had absolutely no idea I'd be speaking about Brash Games and its owner Paul Ryan, not that one, so soon. In fact, I had no real intention of bringing them up ever again outside of one or two snarky callbacks. A few episodes ago, the Jimquisition helped contribute to the exposure of Brash Games, a company that seems to die a deserved death temporarily before coming back in a major way. Don't call it a comeback though, unless you really emphasise the word cum and mean semen when you say it, because that's what Brash Games is right now, a cold puddle of cum in the eyes of the industry. In case you've missed my prior coverage, shame on you, but here's a brief overview of the story so far. Brash Games is a video game review site owned and operated by Paul Ryan, who, if you've not picked up yet, is not that one. Brash doesn't pay its writers, and when a writer leaves the site, it removes their names from bylines, effectively undoing all evidence of their public portfolio. For a company that pays an exposure rather than cash, it's a terrible practice. Exposure, as we've discussed before, is like bullshit free-to-play currency compared to real dollar money, and that Brash can't even guarantee monopoly cash is fucking bullshit. Beyond that, Brash has a habit of altering review scores without telling the writers in order to make them line up with Metacritic averages. It also has been caught writing advertorials for dodgy casino websites without disclosing it. While Ryan himself has more than 16 years worth of unprofessional behaviour and contempt for employees under his belt. A lot of the sponsored content was written by a David James, who appears to be a fictional alter ego of Ryan, a man who's been hurriedly trying to delete evidence of his dodgy behaviour long after it's already been archived. This is the site Critic will not work with after publishing a report that demonstrates how untrustworthy it is as an outlet. That's the really short fucking story, but it should be enough to bring you up to date. Now let's move on to today's main event, the shock return of Paul Ryan, not that one. After brashgames.co.uk disappeared, we'd all thought we'd seen the last of them. I fully expected Ryan to do what he did with Ace Games, just start something new again and hope nobody would notice. Instead, Brash itself sprung back to life, and Ryan, who previously revealed in a leaked email that he wouldn't respond to any of this, actually responded to the exhaustive laundry list of allegations and evidence mounted against him. I almost wanted to applaud the vermin for not crawling under a rock and staying there, but then I read his statement. In the personally earliest known version of the statement, it's been edited multiple times, Ryan started off well enough, apologising for removing the names of authors when they quit the site. I acknowledge I made mistakes in deleting the accounts of previous volunteers and would like to take this opportunity to personally apologise to those concerned for my actions. I am deeply sorry for my actions and I will be reinstating the affected accounts as soon as possible. I would like the affected parties to contact me via the contact form with a list of articles and URLs so I can reinstate the accounts with immediate effect. I have already added several accounts and I'm waiting for other contributors to get in touch. So far so good. Wait, what? He doesn't know who wrote what? He needs people to get in touch with him to... What the fuck? Ryan gets his inept but seemingly heartfelt apology out of the way in the first paragraph, but it's not the only paragraph. No, in fact it goes on significantly longer than that, and it throws pretty much the entire world under one cosmic bus in order to exonerate Ryan and demonise anybody who dared speak out against him. He starts in on Meg Reed, one such author who he claims repeatedly failed to meet deadlines. A fair reason to let someone go, even if you're not fucking paying them, I guess. But Ryan didn't stop there. No, he decided to out her mental health issues, claiming they were the reason he tried to be extremely lenient towards her. As an aside, he tossed a similar fuck you to Ollie Smith, the writer who first talked about his treatment at Brash's hands, saying his situation was similar to Meg's. Now, I was hesitant at first to bring this up on the show, since amplification of Ryan's outing could be potentially reckless for me to do. However, both Meg and Ollie have publicly responded, and I feel they deserve their voices heard. I also think it's crucial to know just how low Ryan will sink to get out of trouble. I mean, I can't quite express the depths of my disgust with what Ryan did here. It's not that mental health issues are to be ashamed of. Hi, I'm Jim Sterling and I need pills to make my brain function normally sometimes. But it's only ever the right and the choice of the person with the mental health issue to publicise it. Not only is it unethical, unfair, unfucking conscionable in the UK where Brash is based, it's also not bloody legal. You don't get to disclose anybody's health anything, you fucking rat fuck. But hey, at least that's the only low blow in the statement. Oh wait, there's more! After slitting the throats of two of his former writers, Ryan turned his attention to Open Critic, who published a report pointing out his outlet's history of questionable behaviour. Let's see what he had to say about that review aggregate. So why did Open Critic make such a meal of it? They wanted to use Brash Games and this so-called scandal as a springboard to announce themselves to the gaming community. Gamersgate style, after all their previous attempts had failed. I checked out Gamersgate, and they haven't said anything about Brash. They're just trying to get me to buy Prey at the moment. Haha. Anyway, put your seatbelts on, the next bit goes long and wild. They were shunned by publishers, developers, and the gaming public. That's why they started to drip feeding parts of their so-called investigation on game forums to build momentum and anticipation for the big reveal, and to say, hey look, we're here to weed our corruption and wrongdoing in the games industry. An unnamed source told Brash Games they, Open Critic, had to do something. They had failed to make inroads into the aggregation field, and Metacritic are still firmly regarded as the industry standard, so they set about finding a scapegoat, someone who wouldn't fight back or make a scene, a sacrificial lamb for the slaughter, and unfortunately that was Brash Games, run by that handicapped bloke in a wheelchair, you know the one. Talk about an easy target. What followed was a game of Chinese whispers, and suddenly I was responsible for everything, even the airstrikes on Syria. No, I'm not that Paul Ryan. That last part is the only potential reference to me in this thing, by the way. I say this because Ryan is very interested in people who can't fight back being picked on, while he uses his platform to out the mental health issues of small-time writers whose platforms don't match his. Just maybe he shouldn't be the one to talk about cherry-picking opponents is all. But let's move past that and talk about the first mention of Paul's wheelchair. It's worth noting that despite more than 16 years in games media, Paul Ryan Not That One is something of a ghost online. He buries his old work, and anything about him as a person is hard to come by. In my extensive research for my previous coverage, I've not once seen his fucking face. In fact, even having seen a single small photo of the guy after the fact, I still think of Paul Ryan when I think of Paul Ryan. Yes, that one! What I'm trying to say is that Ryan's use of a wheelchair was in no way a factor in my coverage, and I'm pretty damn well sure it had nothing to do with Open Critic's report, which only pointed at evidenced corrupt behaviour and said nothing about picking on a so-called handicapped bloke. Of course, now that I know Paul Ryan Not That One uses a wheelchair, I need to talk about how I've adjusted my attitude towards him. My attitude has not fucking changed. Anyway, after failing to acquire pity points with his baseless accusations, Ryan invents a conspiracy theory implicating a site called Game Grin and a long list of former writers he fully names and attempts to tarnish the reputations of. After that, he sets in on Ben McCurry, the guy who wrote the legendary review for Pac-Man 256 and later produced an article about Brash for the Jimquisition.com. Here, Ryan explains how McCurry was able to post that hilarious review on Brash in the first place using a quote he attributes directly to his former writer.
I knew Paul would be in bed by 10 PM as he's disabled and heavily medicated, so I waited until the early hours to publish it, so he would not see it until the morning.
Well, that's a disgusting thing to say. If it's true. The problem is there's no proof. Paul quotes Ben without citation, not so much as a screenshot, a context for where the quote was said. Nothing. Ben sadly didn't get back to me in time before this video went up, but he's denied the allegations on Twitter, calling them ridiculous and clarifying that he's never smoked pot. Oh yeah, the pot thing. It'll sorta make sense in a bit. Sort of. The rest of Paul's self-serving drivel goes on to shit on pretty much anybody who's ever worked for Brash, attempting to discredit his entire staff with a single blow. Hey, let's read some of that. Unfortunately, when dealing with newbies who have been rejected by the magazines and or larger game sites, these things happen. We take a chance on writers who have literally no experiences and send them free games in exchange for reviews, and while they are entitled to their own opinions, you do have to question why they gave 2 out of 10 to a game that is averaging 7 out of 10 on Metacritic. Clearly something amiss. Yet you, Paul, you fucking tit, you're the common thread in all of this. Have you not stopped to think that you're the common fucking thread in all of this? It's not some conspiracy, everybody just thinks you're a fucking cunt!
Darkest soul, Eden's courier, serve me as a skeleton warrior! My, aren't you a bad dog?
Sorry, that last bit was unscripted. Let's get back to the actual topic. The 2 out of 10 he references is for a game called U-Host, a game which, I might add, had nothing to do with anything until Paul himself brought it up. In his statement, he doesn't mention any of the reviews people actually had a problem with. He picked one score change nobody knew about that he felt he could justify. Apparently, the negative review affected the Metascore and therefore the sales, which... why is that Ryan's concern? But anyway, the developer of U-Host suspected the writer didn't play the game before reviewing it, so Ryan got rid of the review and had a quote-unquote more experienced writer do it. Now, the developer of U-Host, Bearbox Media, got in touch with me and can at least corroborate some of this, though it says Ryan oversimplified the issue. The developer was concerned the review was littered with factual inaccuracies. It's kind of the job of an editor of a website to check those, by the way, just letting you know. And that's what they told Brash. What they didn't do was write what Ryan claimed they wrote. Here is what Bearbox said it sent to Ryan. Now here's what Ryan says Bearbox sent to him. Notice how Ryan's version is laced with personal attacks. Also note this bit where Ryan copy-pastes part of Bearbox's original email and presents it as one of his own sentences. The man can't even apologise without fucking plagiarising somebody. Now, as I noted earlier, the statement on Brash Games has gone through several revisions. Now, I don't have all of them. I don't know how anybody could keep up with them, but I have got what I believe is the latest revision, and it's got some extra stuff in. Now, most of it's the same, but he keeps having to go back to add in more digs, to attack more people, to come up with more claims, more conspiracies revolving around him. And I thought I'd read you a little bit just off the cuff. Let's see some of the stuff we've got here. Instances of him just attacking his entire website. Here he is talking about people who write reviews for free, the kind of people whose work he's been exploiting for years. This is what he really thinks of you if you work for Brash. They are not prepared to put in a decent shift. They think playing a game for a couple of hours and knocking up a 400-word review while smoking pot is totally acceptable. Isn't it? I think this is the end of the written review, which will put the review aggregators out of business. He hates Metacritic. The only people making money out of reviews are the review aggregators themselves, like Critic, but they are not sharing it with game sites. Amazing how he tries to turn around what he did on someone else. You know what they say about projection, right? I asked to be taken off I imagine him getting higher and whinier as he talks. I am asked to be taken off Critic as they were only sending us 5 hits a day to Brash Games, and as soon as they took us off, traffic increased tenfold. I don't know how that works. In a way, aggregators are like affiliate marketing sites. Them spinning around the fucking casino shit he's been doing. There used to be a code of honour between reviews, and they would carry out their assignment on time with no excuses, and it worked for years. Yes. Yes, Paul. What you did worked for years. About 16 of them, according to the records we've got. What you did worked, and now it's fucked up. And you're angry because of that, because your racket, because your excuse of a website that allowed you to write paid-for advertorial for casinos has all been blown up to smithereens, because this code of honour you talk about, it wasn't there, it wasn't present with you around. It's only now that some people have stood up and have shown some fucking integrity that we know all about your business. I said earlier that I wanted Meg and Ollie's voices heard. These two writers, first of all, left of their own accord. They weren't fired like Paul Ryan, not that fucking one, claims. Second of all, well, here's part of a statement Ollie provided to me. It's incredibly hypocritical to use our health as a weapon while also using your own as a shield. Finally, while my mental health may have been a reason for me leaving, I haven't spoken about this publicly in a long time, nor have I said this to Paul in any emails whatsoever. If he knows about my mental illness, then he must have dug far back through my social media to find that. He may be trying to find dirt to use on all former writers to make us seem in the wrong, but really it is just making it worse. My message to Paul, please just stop. There's no way you can make this better. Many of us were ready to move on, but you keep bringing us down with your lies and hypocrisy. And finally, in addition to calling all of Ryan's unevidenced accusations bullshit, and I'm inclined to believe her over a proven liar, Meg Reed's public statement has some pertinent and important words to close us out on. Talking about my health is my prerogative and belongs to me and is nobody else's business. Having Paul speak about it with such malice in the way he did has made me feel violated and almost guilty for having a mental illness, which is so wrong. Paul Ryan was just a fart in the wind to me, but what he wrote about me today is fucking unacceptable, and I couldn't sit here and just take it this time. It's sad that I've had to write this and an attempt to explain myself, although addressing it has made me feel a little better since I've now got my side out there and have actual factual evidence to back myself up. I just hope that going forward, Paul Ryan decides to treat writers who take time out of their day to review games for him for free with a bit more respect instead of throwing all his toys out of his pram and chucking them under the bus when he can't get his own way. Before we sign off, I've just been given an email with a bit of breaking news, although by the time this video is published it might have already been more publicised. A bunch of writers and even a game developer are getting together and they're talking currently about filing a libel lawsuit against Paul Ryan, not that one, for what he wrote. And yeah, if they do decide to put that together, do let me know, because I'll be glad to chip into the legal fund, okay? All that remains to be said is thank God for me. Thank God for Meg as well, and Ollie and Ben and all that lot, but Meg rhymes with me, so thank God for Meg. And Ollie and Ben and all the other writers that pull shat on. Fucking hell. Oh my God. Let's try. Fuck it. By the time we are done, Paul Ryan